Hey everyone, welcome back to Echo Your English. We're really happy you're here with us today. Ryan and I were talking before we started recording, and we realized something interesting. A lot of people ask us, how did you actually learn to speak another language? Not how we studied grammar, not how we memorized words, but how we really learned to speak.
Yeah, and that question always makes me slow down and think, because when I answer honestly, it's never very neat or simple. It's not like I woke up one day and suddenly spoke another language. It happens slowly, quietly, and sometimes without me even noticing it was happening.
Exactly. And that's why we wanted to talk about this today. Not in a motivational way, not in a do these 5 steps way, just a real conversation about what actually helped us, what didn't, and what learning a language felt like from the inside.
I think that matters a lot, especially for listeners who feel stuck. You know that feeling where you understand some English, but when it's time to speak, your mind just goes empty.
Or when you feel like you've been learning for years, but you still don't sound the way you want to sound.
Yes, and the strange thing is, when I look back, I didn't learn by trying to sound perfect. I learned by sounding wrong, over and over again.
Same here. I still remember one of the first moments when I realized, oh, I'm actually thinking in this language now. It wasn't during a lesson. It wasn't during a test. It was during a very ordinary moment.
What happened?
I was standing in a small shop, waiting in line, and I caught myself complaining in my head in the other language. I wasn't translating. I wasn't choosing words carefully. I was just complaining naturally, like anyone does.
That's a huge moment, actually.
It really is, because that's when language stops being something you study and starts being something you live with.
For me, that shift came much later than I expected. For a long time, I thought learning a language meant collecting knowledge. Vocabulary lists, grammar rules, textbooks, and those things helped in some ways, of course, but they didn't make me speak.
They don't give you rhythm.
Exactly, or confidence, or that feeling of belonging in a conversation. What actually helped me was listening a lot, even when I didn't understand everything.
Especially when you didn't understand everything.
Yes, I used to think that if I didn't understand at least 90%, I was failing. Now I think the opposite. Those confusing moments were training my brain to accept uncertainty.
And to hear how the language moves.
The rhythm, the pauses people make naturally, the small sounds they use when they think, those things never appear in textbooks.
I spent a lot of time listening to real people talk, podcasts, interviews, casual conversations. Sometimes I was cooking, sometimes I was walking, sometimes I was tired. I wasn't always focused, and that actually helped.
Because language doesn't only grow when you're concentrating, it also grows when you're relaxed.
And when you're emotionally connected to what you're hearing.
That emotional connection changed everything for me. Language suddenly felt human instead of academic.
And that's where many learners feel frustrated. They're trying very hard, but they're learning in a way that doesn't feel human.
And language is deeply human. It's messy, emotional, and imperfect.
In the next part, I think we really need to talk about mistakes. Real mistakes. The uncomfortable ones that make you want to stop speaking.
Because those mistakes taught me more than any perfect sentence ever did.
When we talk about mistakes, I think it's important to be honest about how they feel in the moment. People often say, don't worry about mistakes, but that advice usually comes after you're already confident. When you're still learning, a mistake can feel very personal.
Absolutely. It's not just a wrong word or a wrong tense, it's that sudden feeling of being exposed. You say something and immediately you start watching the other person's face, trying to guess what they're thinking.
I remember one mistake so clearly. I used a word that was technically correct, but no one ever used it in daily conversation. The sentence stopped the flow of the conversation completely.
That kind of silence is unforgettable.
It is. In that moment, I felt small. I remember thinking, maybe I should just listen. Maybe I shouldn't speak until I'm better. But what's interesting is that mistake stayed with me. It stayed so clearly that I never used that word in the wrong way again.
That's such a powerful point. The words I remember best are often words I used incorrectly in front of someone. Those moments created strong memories.
Much stronger than reading a definition in a book.
Exactly. I once mixed up a polite phrase in a very casual one. I didn't mean to be rude, but what I said sounded abrupt. The person laughed, not in a cruel way, but in surprise. I felt embarrassed for days after that.
But you never made that mistake again.
Never. And that's the strange gift of mistakes. They hurt a little, but they teach deeply. When something affects your emotions, your brain holds on to it.
That's why I don't believe fluency comes from avoiding mistakes. I think it comes from surviving them.
I like that idea, surviving mistakes, because every learner goes through that phase where speaking feels risky.
And many people stop right there. They decide to stay quiet because silence feels safer than sounding wrong.
I did that for a long time. I would understand conversations, but I wouldn't join them. I told myself I was being careful, but really I was being afraid.
And fear slows everything down.
It really does. What helped me slowly move past that fear was speaking in low-pressure situations, short comments, simple sentences, even talking to myself.
Talking to yourself is so underrated.
It is. I would describe what I was doing out loud or repeat phrases I had heard earlier. There was no one to judge me, no one to correct me, just me and the language.
That kind of practice builds comfort, not perfection, but comfort.
And comfort is what lets language flow naturally.
Another thing that helped me was realizing that native speakers don't speak perfectly either. They hesitate, they change sentences halfway, they say things like, you know, and I mean, all the time.
Yes, real speech is full of small repairs and restarts.
Once I accepted that, I stopped trying to sound impressive. I focused on sounding clear and human.
And that's when things started to click for me too. In the next part, I think we should talk about something learners rarely hear about enough: the role of time. Not study time, but living time.
That's a big one, and it's often misunderstood. Time plays a strange role in language learning, and I don't think we talk about it honestly enough. People often ask, how many months will it take? Or how many hours do I need? But when I look back, language didn't grow in a straight line for me.
Same here. There were long periods where I felt like nothing was changing at all. I was listening, reading, practicing, and still feeling stuck. And then suddenly, something would shift.
And you couldn't always explain why.
Exactly. One day you just realize you're responding faster, or you're not translating every sentence in your head anymore, or you understand a joke without thinking about it.
Those moments feel almost magical, but they're actually the result of time spent living with the language, not just studying it, but letting it exist in your daily life.
I think that's a key difference. Studying feels active and visible. Living with a language feels passive and invisible, but it's incredibly powerful.
For a long time, I felt guilty when I wasn't actively studying. If I was just listening or watching something casually, I thought it didn't count.
I used to think the same, but now I believe those moments were doing the deepest work.
Because your brain is constantly picking up patterns even when you're not trying to analyze them.
That's how children learn, actually. They don't sit down with grammar rules. They absorb the language over time through repetition and exposure.
And adults can do that too, even though we often forget it.
One thing that really helped me was consistency, not intensity. I didn't study for hours every day. I just made sure English was part of my life regularly.
A little bit, often.
Exactly. Listening while walking, watching a short video while eating, reading something simple before bed. Those small moments added up.
And they reduced pressure. Language learning stopped feeling like a task and started feeling like a habit.
Another important realization for me was that progress isn't always visible in the moment. You might feel the same for weeks, but your brain is quietly reorganizing things.
That's such a comforting thought, especially for learners who feel discouraged.
Yes, feeling stuck doesn't mean you're failing. It often means you're in the middle of change.
I also noticed that the more patient I became, the faster things seemed to move. When I stopped demanding quick results, I actually improved more.
There's something very paradoxical about that.
There really is. Language grows best when it's given space.
And that space includes making mistakes, forgetting words, and sometimes feeling lost.
All of which are completely normal.
In the next part, I think we should talk about input versus output, listening and reading versus speaking and writing.
That balance is something many learners struggle with.
And we both had to learn it the hard way.
The idea of input and output changed everything for me once I truly understood it. For a long time, I felt guilty for listening more than speaking. I thought real progress only happened when I was producing language, when I was forcing myself to talk.
I had that same belief. I thought if I wasn't speaking every day, I was wasting time. But when I look back, most of my speaking ability came from listening first.
Yes, listening builds a foundation. It gives your brain examples of how ideas are actually expressed, not how they're explained in textbooks, but how people really talk.
And without enough input, output feels painful. You're trying to build sentences without having enough natural models in your head.
That's such a good way to describe it. When input is strong, output becomes easier and more automatic.
I remember a period when I spoke very little, but I listened constantly. Podcasts, conversations, even background noise. And then one day, I noticed that when I did speak, the sentences came out more smoothly.
Almost like they were already waiting inside you.
Exactly. And that's why I don't believe speaking should be forced too early or too aggressively. It should be invited, not pushed.
I agree. Speaking grows naturally when you feel ready. That doesn't mean you avoid it forever, but you allow it to develop at its own pace.
Another thing that helped me was shadowing, repeating what I heard out loud. Not to sound perfect, but to feel the rhythm.
Rhythm is such an important word here. Language is music in a way. Stress, intonation, speed, those things come from listening.
When I started copying the rhythm instead of the words, my accent improved without me trying to change it.
And your confidence improved too.
Yes, because I stopped overthinking. I wasn't building sentences piece by piece anymore. I was borrowing patterns.
That's how native speakers speak. They don't invent sentences from scratch every time.
Exactly. They reuse patterns they've heard thousands of times.
Another thing learners worry about is vocabulary. They think they need to know a huge number of words before speaking.
But in real life, we use a surprisingly small set of words again and again.
And we reuse them in flexible ways. That flexibility comes from exposure, not memorization.
I learned many words not by studying them, but by hearing them repeatedly in different contexts. Eventually, their meaning became clear without translation.
That moment when a word stops being a translation and becomes a feeling is very special.
It really is, and that only happens through repeated input.
In the next part, I think we should talk about identity. How learning another language can change the way you see yourself.
That's a deep topic, and it's something many learners experience quietly.
Yes, and it deserves to be talked about openly. Learning another language slowly changes your identity, and that can feel confusing at first. You're still the same person, of course, but you start expressing yourself in slightly different ways. Some parts of you become quieter, and other parts become more visible.
I noticed that too. In my first language, I was very expressive. I joked a lot. In the new language, I became more careful, more serious. Not because that was who I was, but because that was all I could manage at the time.
And that can feel uncomfortable. You know you're more than what you're able to say.
Exactly. It's like being reduced to a simpler version of yourself.
But over time, something interesting happens. As your language grows, that fuller version of you slowly comes back.
Yes, your humor returns, your personality shows up again. You start making jokes, telling stories, disagreeing, expressing opinions.
That moment is incredibly freeing. It feels like getting your voice back.
And I think that's why patience is so important. In the early stages, it's easy to feel invisible or misunderstood.
Especially if people speak faster around you or simplify things too much.
Or assume you understand less than you actually do.
I had moments where I felt frustrated because my thoughts were complex, but my words were simple.
That gap between thought and expression can be painful.
But it closes with time, not suddenly, but gradually, sentence by sentence, conversation by conversation.
Another thing that helped me was accepting that I didn't need to sound like a native speaker to be myself.
That's such an important point.
I used to chase a perfect accent, perfect expressions, and that made me tense. Once I let go of that goal, my speech became more natural.
Because you were focused on meaning, not performance.
Exactly. I realized my goal wasn't to become someone else. It was to communicate as myself in another language.
And that shift changes everything. Language becomes a bridge, not a mask.
I also noticed that people respond more warmly when you speak naturally, even with mistakes, than when you speak perfectly but stiffly.
Yes, warmth matters more than accuracy in real conversations.
That realization gave me confidence. I stopped apologizing for my English. I just spoke.
And people met you where you were.
Most of the time, yes, and when they didn't, that was okay too.
Because language learning also teaches resilience.
It really does. You learn to stay in the conversation even when things feel uncertain.
In the next part, I think we should talk about environment, where and how you surround yourself with the language.
That's another piece that quietly shapes everything.
Environment plays a much bigger role in language learning than most people realize. It's not just about living in a country where the language is spoken, it's about what kind of relationship you have with the language every day.
That's such a good distinction. You can live in an English-speaking environment and still avoid English emotionally.
Exactly. I've met people who lived for years surrounded by the language, but stayed in a bubble. They did what they needed to do, but they didn't let the language into their inner world.
And I've also met people who didn't live abroad at all, but created a strong language environment for themselves.
Yes, they changed what they listened to, what they watched, what they read. Slowly, the language became familiar, even comforting.
I think comfort is a key word here. When a language feels safe, you engage with it more.
For me, that meant choosing content I genuinely enjoyed. Not things I thought I should like, but things I actually liked.
Same. When I stopped forcing myself to watch educational content and started watching shows and listening to conversations that felt real, everything changed.
Because you wanted to understand, not because you felt obligated to.
And motivation becomes natural when curiosity leads.
Another thing that helped me was creating small rituals around the language. Listening at the same time each day, reading a few pages before bed.
Those rituals made English feel like part of my life, not a separate activity.
And over time, the language stopped feeling foreign.
I also think it's important to talk about emotional environment, how safe you feel making mistakes around certain people.
That's huge. Some environments make you quiet, others invite you to speak.
I learned fastest when I felt accepted, not corrected constantly.
Gentle correction is helpful. Constant correction is exhausting.
And sometimes no correction at all is best, just understanding and moving on.
That kind of environment builds confidence.
Which brings us to something else, comparison. Being around other learners or native speakers can either motivate you or discourage you.
I had to learn to stop measuring my progress against others.
Me too. Everyone's language journey is different. Different goals, different timelines, different lives.
Once I accepted that, I became more relaxed.
And relaxation is surprisingly important for learning.
In the next part, I think we should talk about motivation. Not the loud, energetic kind, but the quiet kind that lasts.
The kind that keeps you going even when progress feels slow.
Motivation is something people talk about all the time, but usually in a very dramatic way. Big goals, big promises, huge energy. That kind of motivation can be exciting, but it doesn't usually last very long.
I agree. The motivation that actually helped me was much quieter. It wasn't about becoming fluent fast, it was about staying connected to the language, even on ordinary days.
For me, motivation changed when I stopped asking, how fast am I improving, and started asking, do I enjoy this today?
That's such an important shift. Enjoyment keeps you coming back even when nothing feels impressive.
Exactly. Some days learning a language feels boring. Some days it feels difficult. And some days it feels surprisingly easy. Motivation that survives all of those days has to be gentle.
I also noticed that pressure kills motivation very quickly. When I told myself I had to practice, I resisted. When I told myself I could practice, I relaxed.
Language doesn't respond well to force.
Not at all. It responds to curiosity, repetition, and patience.
One thing that helped me stay motivated was noticing very small changes, not big breakthroughs, just tiny signs of progress.
Like understanding one extra sentence in a conversation,
Or feeling less tired after listening for a long time.
or realizing you didn't translate something in your head.
Those moments are easy to miss, but they're incredibly important.
They remind you that something is happening, even if it's slow.
I also learned to forgive myself for bad days, days when I didn't listen, days when I felt lazy, days when English felt far away.
That forgiveness keeps the relationship with the language healthy.
Because learning a language is a long relationship, not a short project.
And like any relationship, it has ups and downs.
Another thing that kept me motivated was using the language for real reasons, not just practice, but communication.
Talking to someone, writing a message, sharing an opinion.
When language connects you to people, it gains meaning.
And meaning is what keeps motivation alive.
Over time, English stopped being something I was chasing, it became something I was living with.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Looking back now, I don't remember most of the rules I studied, but I remember conversations, feelings, moments where I felt understood.
Same here. Those moments are what actually taught me to speak.
And if there's one thing we hope listeners understand today, it's this. You don't need to rush. You don't need to be perfect.
You just need to stay close to the language.
Let it be part of your life.
Listen to it, speak it imperfectly, trust the process.
You're not behind, you're learning.
And if you keep showing up in small, human ways, your voice will come through.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Echo Your English and join us again soon.
Keep listening, keep speaking, and be kind to yourself along the way.
We'll see you next time.